I'm Sarah Simpson, Managing Director of Century One. We're a content agency that specialises in the charity and membership sector, and I'm delighted to say that today I'm interviewing Dave Williams, who's the Media Officer of USDAW. Hi Dave, thanks for taking the time to come down to see us today, because I know you've had to come down from Manchester, which is in lockdown.
Yes, indeed, but nice to be in London or St Albans.
I thought just to start with, before we get into sort of more detail of what's gone on over the last few months, I thought if you could just tell us a little bit about USDAW.
Okay, well, we brand ourselves as the Shop Workers Trade Union, but we actually have a much more diverse membership than that. Mm-hmm. The vast majority of our members are key workers delivering essential services. That's from in the shops to the distribution workers, mm-hmm. to the delivery drivers that are doing doorstep deliveries, and even back as far as food manufacturing. So we have a whole range of people but who have been working throughout the pandemic mm-hmm. To ensure that the country is fed, food is on the shelves, and that there's medicines in the cabinets. So
quite a fundamental role alongside the NHS and everybody else that's working really hard at the moment.
Indeed, and we were pleased that our members were included in the clap on Thursday as well, because I know it started off as NHS workers and carers, and a very mm-hmm. important group of people, obviously, going through what we've been through. But as it developed, it was a recognition that there are far more people involved in keeping the country going.
Do you feel since that's happened that there is a wider recognition out there of members in USDAW of the role they take in society?
Well, I think it's a bit of a mixed picture, really. There are certainly more people who have recognised that there's a whole cohort of what are effectively low-paid workers who are essential to the fabric of the country. Yeah. And, there's no doubt that in that clap for on the Thursday night, mm-hmm. people were talking about shop workers, and you do hear it more and more. But on the other side, what we have found is that violence, threats and abuse against shop workers has doubled during the pandemic, and a lot around people's frustrations. So at the beginning there was the panic buying, and then there's been the social distancing measures and the queuing outside stores and all that. So in actual fact, people who may have been clapping on a Thursday for the shop workers were going into store and abusing the staff.
So at the time when this was all happening and your members were having to adapt in a very trying situation, you were having to manage an unknown sort of new comm strategy. Did you have to do that remotely?
We were in the office up until the actual lockdown was announced, which was helpful, although we did have staff who were having to go off because the partners were self-isolated, and so therefore the whole household. So there was all this kind of thing that was going on. It was a pretty chaotic time. And the communications, although our normal communication channels were breaking down, it was really important that we did communicate with the staff, because they needed to know what safety measures they were supposed to take, what negotiations we were conducting with the companies to improve the safety in stores. There was all this kind of going on. It was just such a chaotic period, and we had the panic buying at the same time, which our members described as being like having the run-up to Christmas every single day.
Messaging your members clearly had to change. The way you did it had to change, and you've got your social media campaigns running. Did your social media presence increase?
We have a number of communication channels through print, online, emails, social media. We did see an increase in Twitter, but Twitter isn't the number one choice of our members. They tend to be more Facebook, so we were using Facebook as well. Emails were really important, but we can only reach about a third to a half of our members. It came to the point where we knew we had to get a magazine out, because that then reaches every single member.
Yes, we were very aware of that when I got the call from Mike Glover. I was in the supermarket at the time, actually, when I got that call.
Respecting the staff, I hope.
Yes, I hope. You called me out and I said, actually, I'm just in the supermarket. And he said, Sarah, can we get the magazine out early, please? So we rushed it through. I think we turned the magazine around in a week. Yeah. So it came out a couple of months early. But clearly that reaction was important to you to get that out super quick, as well as doing the social media.
Yeah, it was absolutely crucial, because we're talking about the biggest crisis probably in living memory, and our members were right on the front line of that, taking all the hassle, but mainly, concerned about their own safety, whether they're going to contract the virus and take it back home, all those kind of worries. And, for a large number of the members, the unions looked like it was silent because we weren't communicating by email, but the magazine allowed us to get into every single one of those households and made sure that they knew what the union was doing, but also, more importantly, giving them the correct advice about how they should be operating at work and informing them about what we'd achieved with the employers in terms of safety measures. So all that kind of information we were having to feed through because our members needed to know exactly what was going on.
That you were influencers in that happening.
Indeed,
which I suppose your average person walking through the supermarket wouldn't really be aware of that. They always think, the employers have done it all.
Just as a little anecdote from when I was in the Morrison's supermarket doing my weekly shop on my own and all that, so following the rules and everything else. Tannoy announcements reminding customers about social distancing and then saying respect the staff, which is something we fought for a long time. And to be honest, retailers are a little reluctant to sort of suggest that stores are dangerous places for people to be, and I understand that. They're trying to make them open and welcoming, so they haven't necessarily gone down that road themselves. But in this pandemic, they did, and they took that step. But the nice bit about it was, the voiceover guy who was doing the tannoy was the same one that we used for our videos at our annual conference.
Perfect.
So for years he'd been doing these videos about Freedom from Fear campaign and respecting shop workers, and now he was actually in the store delivering it for real.
Going back to your point about the reps, that's interesting. You're over 400,000 members. There must be a considerable amount of churn. Could you just talk a little bit more about the role of your reps? I know we do your magazine. Clearly you take the time to put a magazine out to them 4 times a year, and you value them. Just tell me a little bit more about the role that they take in the normal world.
The magazine, and we do leaflets and the online and the emails, all those communication channels, I think are absolutely crucial in terms of retention. But actually making that initial step for a worker to join USDAW and that recruitment process largely is a face-to-face a conversation between an USDAW rep and a non-member. And so we have seen an increase in online joins, largely because the reps have been restricted in what they're able to do in the stores, and those face-to-face conversations haven't been taking place as much as they normally do. But it's absolutely crucial to us that those face-to-face conversations do take place, because that's how we do a large part of our recruitment.
How do you recruit your reps?
Strong arm, basically.
Does a rep recruit a rep? Is that how it tends to work?
It tends to be the officials will. They are elected. The reps are by the members in the store that they're going to, in the workplace that they're going to represent those members. So yes, there is an election. But there is obviously a persuasion as well, because you've got to enthuse people to take the next step from being a member, so they become active in the union, and then the next step is to recruit them as a rep. But then once they're recruited as a rep, there's a real job of work to be done in training, and we have some fantastic training and education programs that the reps go through that give them not just the expertise on employment law and that sort of thing, but also some of the skills that they need about negotiation and representation, standing up to the manager, making a case, all this sort of thing. So, and I always find that our reps, they get a lot out of those courses. There's a real good interaction between the reps where they swap stories and, and they then don't feel like they're on their own.
So I would imagine now that things have returned to the new normal. Your reps are back out there doing face-to-face. I mean, they must have are they on catch-up at the moment to reduce that churn for you?
They are, yeah. So the workplace reps, they'll be operating still under some restricted circumstances, but yes, it is getting more back to normal. But we run an academy where we train reps, but part of that is that they go out and do recruitment. So they, not in their own workplace, but they go to other workplaces and they work with the team of reps in that workplace and they assist with the recruitment process, and will undertake a lot of the face-to-face conversations. Well, we weren't able to run the academy this year, we're not in a position where reps from outside that workplace can go in and do that work yet. It's something that the employers give us permission to do in normal circumstances, but clearly with the restrictions that are going on at the moment, that's still a difficult prospect. We also have what we call stand-down reps. So these are people who are released by their company to go and do recruitment work for USDAW in other workplaces, and that's not running either at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Those two projects really do make a big difference to our recruitment, and so that's a struggle.
Well, it's very interesting to hear, and I think there's a lot to be learned there. That face-to-face, just to reiterate, that face-to-face contact is, when you get it, maybe as effective, if not more effective, than all the social media and the print. It's about the whole package, isn't it? It's about having that personal touch. USDAW is an interesting union, because when I look in on USDAW, I see a very sort of membership, community, member benefit, community sort of feeling around it. But interestingly, I noticed you have this campaign running for your business in your sector on a wider level about the importance of retail within our society. Could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Retail is the largest sector of employment in the country. 3 million people employed in retail, provides a substantial part of the GDP for the country. Really important economically. It doesn't always get the attention that it should do.
Been a lot of news recently on that front, hasn't there?
Absolutely. So retail is in real trouble. I mean, it was in real trouble before this happened, particularly on the high street. Not so much in the food grocery sector, but on the high street, they are having big problems. So we've seen. This week, 7,000 jobs going at M&S. Last week, 2,500 at Debenhams, and that's just part of a whole series of thousands of jobs going. And then we now have the unenviable position of having the highest job losses of any sector in the UK economy. We overtook aviation this week, so not a great position to be in. And quite frankly, this is the beginning of a lot more bad news to come, unless we can persuade the government to make some substantial interventions. And we've for a long time been calling for industrial strategy for retail. And that's not just us, USDAW as the union, but that's something that the employers are calling for as well. So we've been lobbying with the British Retail Consortium on this very issue, because that has now morphed into being a recovery plan. And there's got to be an urgent recovery plan. There are huge issues for high street retailers, bricks and mortar retailers as we call them. So one of them is the competition with online. There are vast unfair tax advantages for online retailers and tax disadvantages for the high street retailers, and it's finding it very difficult to compete. There's a long overdue review on things like rates and rents and on business premises.
Yeah, you even hear them big entrepreneurs, shall we say, on the high street calling for that as well.
So we're in the situation where the government's got to take a choice here as to whether they want to see high streets continue to be the heart of our communities or go to the wall. And it's a very difficult prospect for a lot of towns and cities, because I can't really think of what a town and city would look like if they didn't have a town or city centre.
So you worked quickly under COVID-19 in revising your communication strategy. You were very agile, you increased your social media. You can see that by the stats, which the viewers will be seeing. You got your you got the print side out more quickly. If you were to sit back and do that all again, what would you do differently?
I think what we've learnt is that how we can actually set up and work remotely, and that was something we hadn't ever done before. The staff and the communications department are very office-based. I think now we know how to do that and make that work, and it has worked. We've been out of the office for 5 months now, and it does work really well. And there is nothing that we have wanted to do that we couldn't do because we weren't in the office. So we're pleased with that. I think we would probably make sure we've got better preparations for that, because it was a time of turmoil to have all that going on with our members and also try and shift the organisation out of the office and into people's homes.
Did you have a plan for the chances of a pandemic happening?
No, absolutely not.
That's the question that everybody's being asked. And they say, yes, we had a meeting 3 years ago about this. Yeah, but you didn't.
No,
Okay.
This was starting from the absolute base. You know, we'd never considered that people would be working from home, certainly for any long-term period.
Well, thank you very much for your time today. The interesting thing for me was how you used your communications plan across all touch points. You didn't knock anything on the head. You brought the print forward. You upped your social media. You've kept focus on the reps. You understand the importance of that, and I think that's something that all membership organisations could learn from, is that face-to-face contact in whatever shape or form they do, whether it's talking to graduates when they leave university, encouraging them to join their membership, their community organisation. So thank you very much.